It's when you saw the island and you touched down on its sand. In the morning sun, it looked like paradise, but it's where the devil lurks. Welcome to your hell on earth. Choppers in the air, grunts are on the ground, fire in the jungle, tracers in the sky. It's the final battle. You're now fighting for your life. All gave some gave all. Blood in the mud, death takes its toll. There's no turning back, it's a hornet's nest. The ground beneath you shakes when grenades are thrown from among the bullet-ridden trees. The Reaper smiles at you as he sits down on his throne of bone. The sky, it's the final battle. You're now fighting for your life. All gave some gave all. Blood in the mud, death takes its toll. As you pray, time stands still. Yes, it's hell, but you won't give up. It's bullet after bullet and kill after kill. A daisy cutter falls from the sky, adding more hellfire to the doom, turning an entire hill into a blackened tomb. Choppers in the air, grunts are on the ground, fire in the jungle, tracers in the sky. It's the final battle. You're now fighting for your life. All gave some gave all. Blood in the mud, death takes its toll. As the day turns into night, once again choppers fill the sky. It's time to go, but when you look around, your heart is filled with terror, 'cause you just got left behind. 3 young men, now you're on your own. Choppers in the air, grunts are on the ground, fire in the jungle, tracers in the sky. It's the final battle. You're now fighting for your life. All gave some gave all. Blood in the mud, death takes its toll. Your voices will echo in the night forever, but the battle isn't over yet. We won't let you be forgotten. We just want you brought back home, because time can't heal this open wound. So we all cry out, never say never. Whispers in the air, grunts are on the ground. Fire in the jungle, traces in the sky. It's the final battle. You're now fighting for your life. All gave some gave all. Blood in the mud, death takes its toll. You will never be forgotten, 'cause the memory remains. In our hearts you'll live forever. Gary, Danny, and Joseph, 3 young boys on that endless list of names.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever part of the world that you're in. And we're pleased to have you with us. Just a second here. There we go. Get rid of a little background noise, but thank you to the one person who joined. I hope you're actually listening. My name is Larry Barnett. On Rumble, I'm at @L Barnett 777. Give me a follow so I can get a creator button here before too long. I gathered everybody up today because I just felt like I needed to talk about something. Since you don't know me, I'll introduce myself a little more. I'm a retired truck driver of over 30 years, 30 to 35 years, did primarily work in New York City. I've been retired now about 7 years. I've been in the political arena for the last 2 years, and May is always tough on me, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more here in just a little bit, since I'm pretty much talking to myself. But there was a time back in the 70s where the war that I was involved in, which was Vietnam, was a very unpopular war. A lot of the youth had organized because they wanted us out of Vietnam, and it was a battle of cultures. The new culture against the old guard in Washington, D.C. Time changes a lot of things. You may think you're young now. You're going to wake up one day and say, where did all this time go? So I'd like to leave a clear record for my children and my grandchildren, and hopefully great-grandchildren, will be able to learn about their Papa Larry. I want them to be able to understand that they can accomplish anything in life that they choose, and dream on. Reach for those dreams. Never give up. I'll put it that way. Never give up. Why am I doing this? Well, a lot of times talking is therapy. Now, I don't know if you are suffering with PTSD or not, but I do. I have PTSD. I'm 100% service connected for PTSD. I take a regime of medicine, probably about 40 of them, twice a day, and it keeps me balanced. Now, I'm not a fan of, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of synthetic drugs. I think pharmaceutical manufacturers are nothing but vultures preying on poor people in the country. They'll do enough in their public relations department to show to make themselves look like good guys, but they're basically just poisoning me. But I don't know what else to do. Let's talk about what the American culture was at the time when I went in. That was I have severe memory loss, folks. I forget the easiest thing. I believe it was 1973. I was there from 73 to 78. I was at Lejeune the first 18 months. Went to Okinawa, served in Vietnam, served in Cambodia, and I finished out my tour at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, drinking the poison water. And yes, I do have a claim in that. If you haven't seen my videos on Veteran Affairs with Larry Barnett on Rumble, you just simply search for Empty Pockets Podcast, James, and you'll find my veteran lectures that are on his platform. Excuse me, my goodness. But I wanted to take a little bit of time this evening to go over my individual story. So hopefully some of you folks can watch, maybe give me a follow, and kind of help an old vet out. I am a Marine, and I've always been a Marine, and I will always be a Marine. In April of 1975, at the beginning of April, I arrived at Camp Swab in Okinawa at my new duty station. The company, and as a matter of fact, the entire battalion was in rotation at that particular time. And what I mean about rotation is basically the turnover of troops. A certain number would get sent back to the station, and a certain number would come back in to Okinawa. I was in Okinawa about 2 weeks when the XO called me in to the office and told me I was going to be put on detached duty with 4th Marines, and that we were going to Saigon. I'll never forget my father when I finally convinced him to sign my papers so I could go into the Corps. He said, well, at least you won't have to go to Vietnam. And 18 months later, that's where I was. So a lot of people equate the end of the Vietnam War in two ways, because they feel that and I lost my train of thought, they feel like they're not a part of anything. And I just threw that in there because I totally forgot what I was saying. Now, folks, I'll tell you straight up, I have severe memory losses. I forget where I'm talking about right in the middle of it. It's just part of my disease, and I have to deal with it. But I'm learning and I'm getting better because I've never done podcasting before. I've watched a few, so I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to seek out veterans that need help. I'm very familiar with the VA system. But to try to get back to what we were talking about, I was put on detached duty to 4th Marines and was told by the XO we were going to Saigon, We were going to evacuate the American embassy. Now, don't equate the end of the Vietnam War with the withdrawal. In 72, the troops were drawn down. But why were we there in 75? Because we had an American embassy that was still in Saigon, and we needed to evacuate that embassy because at that time the North Vietnamese Army was progressively closing in around the city, a lot of artillery, just about a level of controlled chaos, I guess is what I'll call it. Because things changed, things became fluid in Saigon, and they changed in an hour. You never knew. Because the first thing, we weren't going to take any refugees out of Saigon. Initially, I was told that once the embassy staff was evacuated, that we were going to evacuate shortly after that. Well, it didn't work out that way. Coming around April, 20th, 18th to the 20th, I was walking a post at the embassy in Saigon, and that's the first time I'd ever seen a plane get shot out of the sky in person. That was a surreal experience, I'll tell you that. But at that time, South Vietnamese people started climbing over the walls to get inside of the embassy. Many of these people had cooperated with the Americans, and then basically what America planned to do was get out and just leave them there for the NVA. Well, somebody decided that we would evacuate these people to keep them from getting executed by the NVA. There was a lot of them. That embassy compound ground was full. I learned what the hard way, I learned what shell shock was. And shell shock is a common experience by combat vets after they come back out of combat. Everything, if you're on a ship, there's a lot of banging and clanging and stuff going on, and you wonder what it is. Is the ship under attack? I mean, it lasts for about 3 or 4 days, it seemed like. On April the 30th, we did evacuate the Vietnamese refugees. It was orderly chaos, but we had left there at the end of April with the mission accomplished. Now, it's odd, I was in Saigon for about 2 weeks, and never experienced anything quite like that in my life. It was a difficult experience, but it's overshadowed by what happened on May the 15th. I had got back from 4th Marines. I was reattached to my 9th Marines at Swab, and we were going out into the field to do field maneuvers. Training was very, very limited. With the time that they called us to deploy again for the second time for me, and they loaded us. So we were in the field, and they loaded us all up in 6-bys and took us back to the barracks and said, "Get packed, we're leaving." At that point, nobody knew where we were going and why. We just knew we had to be out on the parade deck in about 60 minutes with gear on, full battle gear ready to go. Still didn't know what was going on. They shipped us in trucks down to Kadena Air Base at the southern end of Okinawa, and we boarded a C-130, big troop hauler. If you've never seen a C-130, they're a monster. But we landed in, the door opened, we were in Utapao, Thailand. And we had been told that there was a ship that had been seized by Khmer Rouge forces, and that we were going to be part of the crew that went back, part of the team that went back and recaptured the ship, and then get the crew back. Now, we were placed in an airport hangar, I guess where they parked the planes underneath the lean-to or the weather. But anyway, that's where we were. There was probably, I don't know, 350 of us out there, and still waiting orders. Later on that evening, on May the 14th, our date of May the 14th, I think they're like 11 hours ahead of us or whatever, something like that, if you wanted to try to do a timeline. The time we spent in under the barracks, we were getting antsy. You know, they had us all gathered up here, and about 7 o'clock that night, Lieutenant Sistery called me over to the command post and told us that in the morning that we were flying, I believe it was 4 choppers or 5 choppers, maybe something like that, and that we were going to go and rescue the crew of the USS Mayaguez. That's what the objective was. Unbeknownst to us, though, they had been moved off the island that we're going to assault, and were moved on another island. And we needed to get their attention to get that crew back. Because if you've done any research whatsoever on Pol Pot, his regime, and the Khmer Rouge, you know how brutal and sadistic, animalistic, whatever istic you want to put with it, is what they were. Lieutenant said, well, we're going to go get the crew of Mayaguez off of Koh Tang. The island was named Tang. And that some of us would come in from the east, some of us would come in from the west, and basically like a pincher move, and we would link up and then sweep the island looking for the crew of the Mayaguez. Well, as luck would have it, we got off to a late start. I told the team what Lieutenant Sistery had told me, that there were going to be just maybe a few fishermen there, and nothing that was really going to be real heavy, and we shouldn't have any problem at all. So I told my team to get some rest, stay on your toes, and we'll do just fine. The problem became an intelligence problem. We had no data on the island. I think they finally found it on a little map or something and couldn't tell you a thing about it. Now, why the intelligence community dropped this is still a sore spot with me, because the intel was available, but it didn't get into the right hands until the mission was already underway. There were freshly dug gun pits. Pictures were taken of, and there were reinforced bunkers, and all fully expecting an attack of some kind. Now, what the intelligence community did was drop the ball, because the island that supposedly the crew was on was in dispute with Vietnam, especially for the oil rights. There's probably a lot of oil on that island, but how this got missed is still a mystery, and we have to learn from it. There's nothing to be done now. We lost. But because intel was so poor, we could have made different arrangements to take out those positions and still get the crew of Maguez rescued. Now, whoever in command that made the decision not to prep the beach or half a mile within the beach line, but rather than go in there with no preparatory fire, was suicide. It was suicide. I'll get to that in a minute. And in the morning, we were loaded up onto the helicopters, and believe it or not, good intel at that point had reached Captain Davis, but his people were already on choppers and committed to the operation the way that it was. What he did do was tell Gunnery Sergeant McNamara, Company Gunny, was that he thought we were in for a world of hurt. Well, if they'd asked me, I already knew that. Because when Cicely had told me we were just going to run into a few fishermen and maybe a sniper or two, that we wouldn't have much to worry about. But in my stomach, man, I just felt like it's not going to be as easy as they're making it out to be. I just felt it. That's the only way that I knew to explain it, but I didn't share that with anybody. Certainly didn't share it with my troops. I wanted them focused on what the mission at hand was. I'll say this as we go on here. Like I said, we were suited up, sitting in the hangars, ready to go. Loaded up the helicopters probably about 4 that morning, something to that effect. We got a late start. And the island was 5 or 6 hours away. What was I going to tell you? As we started towards the island, all the choppers got in formation. They tested their miniguns and everything that they needed to do before they got to the objective. But the objective was reinforced with a battalion of seasoned Khmer Rouge guerrilla warfare fighters. These guys had been in battle before, and they were battle hardened. I wish I could say the same about our troops, but that's not the case. Many of these kids were 18 and 19 years old and had just gotten out of boot camp. At least I had 18 months at Lejeune. At least I had Saigon under my belt, so I wasn't totally taken by surprise, but I was surprised enough, that's for sure. If we thought we were going to surprise somebody, we were badly fooled. Because when we got there, the sun was just coming up over the horizon, the water was calm, could hear for miles, could see for miles, so our element of surprise was blown. And the fact that intel didn't get the information on just exactly what the troop strength was on that island is still a mystery. Still a mystery. As we got in, it's a beautiful island. The water was crystal clear. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't care. You know, I get a lot of people. I met an avid racist yesterday, and try to explain to people when you're in the military, the only color you're concerned with is green. You want to know that that man sitting next to you, be he black, white, Asian, Indian, any other minority that you want to put in there, I didn't care. I still don't for that matter, but listening to what I've listened to over the years, the color that I appreciated was green. So you folks out there, some of you that are racist or just, I met somebody just said she wasn't, just totally hated a Jew. Well, unfortunately, we had a Jew in our live stream, and that sort of set things off. But anyway, back to what I was saying. As we started into the island, somehow in the battle plan we got mixed up. We were on a chopper whose call sign was Knife 23, next to another helicopter called Knife 31. These are important to understand as I talk, because knife are used to insert troop, and Jolly Greens are decided to rescue troops. We'll get to that soon enough. The time seemed like an eternity. He turned the chopper around. We had a narrow slit of beach that we were going to try to land on. And as we started to turn around, as we started to back in towards the beach line, I seen a bright orange glow in our helicopter. Felt a tremendous amount of heat on the side of my face. So obviously I automatically looked over behind myself and said to see what it was, and Knife 31 was a ball of flames. It was horrible. I pray that no one else ever has to see something like that. Because there were a total, like, with Air Force All, there were like 23 men on that helicopter, and 14 of them burned to death. Now, if you've ever seen something like that, it does something to you. You know, people taking their rifle butts and trying to beat the windows out. Any way to escape that helicopter. I'd never seen anything like that in my life, and was helpless. The chopper was probably only 150 yards from us. But the fire was just so intense, and Knife 31 landed right on top of the hornet's nest. And they paid the price. I turned her back around after looking at 31. I don't know what drove my attention to the rear of the chopper, but I was looking out the rear of the chopper, and I seen a bright flash and a loud bang. And then that tail section on the helicopter just folded away. Now what happens at that point is called loss of yaw control. In other words, without the tail, the body spins under the rotors. Now this pilot, and these had no combat experience whatsoever. These guys fared and showed themselves well today. He crash landed that helicopter on that narrow piece of beach and got us off. We got off safely. After we had gotten off, I put the men into a semi-perimeter, right at the edge of the jungle's tree line, and there's where we sat. I don't know why, when we first got out of the helicopter, Lieutenant Cicery was the first one off. Again, another officer, no combat experience, that showed himself well. For the most part, I say that for the most part, they left us alone. Why? They could have overrun us any time they wanted to. They knew it and we knew it. But they didn't, because we were helicopter bait. They tried once to extract us, and they tried once to reinforce us. And both times that they tried to get into the beach, man, that tree line would just erupt and come alive. So neither chopper, we couldn't get reinforced, and we couldn't get evacuated, and we didn't have a radio. We knew on the West Beach there was the awfulest gun battle going on like you'd ever heard in your life. We didn't know. We didn't have any contact with them. It was screwed up from the minute we started with it. What we did have, it was a brave Air Force pilot who had survival radio. And he was trying to tell them where we were. And at that time, we were almost taking friendly fire because they were trying to push the KR away from us. And basically all they done is they hugged us closer. The closer they stayed to our perimeter, the safer they were. Towards evening, later on in the evening, it was fixing to get dark. Cicery and Staff Sergeant Wyatt, the platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Wyatt, decided that we couldn't stay on that side of the beach. We had to move, and where we could move to, we were limited. If we tried traveling to the south, that's where the hornet's nest was. So we decided we were going to go to the north and circle the tip of the island and try to come around and meet up with the Marines on the West Beach. That was the plan. Well, as it started again, it started to get darker, and there was a gig. Now, a gig is the captain's pleasure boat that he kind of runs around in. But the gig had been refitted with machine guns and was laying down suppression fire going towards the north side of that beach. It was decided that the gig could hold about 12 people. I think we were 23, 24 strong at that point, which meant that we could evacuate our wounded and the Air Force personnel, but many of the Marines had to stay. Well, when we were told about the gig coming in, this is how men are made. When I tell this story, it's always emotional for me. But Lieutenant Cicery had said that some were going to have to stay, and he was looking for volunteers, and Wyatt put up his hand, and Lieutenant Lucas put up his hand, and my hand wouldn't go up. I didn't want to die. It was just that simple. And I knew those of us that stayed that we were dead men. But that all came apart when Lieutenant Cicery looked over at me and said, "Larry," said, "you got to stay, and you pick the rest of the people to stay." My heart went into my throat. It did. You know, I told him, "Boys, we've been through a lot today. We've been through a lot. But please, please, don't make me pick you to stay." And I'll never forget him. His name was Louis Ibarra, and Louis's hand went up real slow, and then one by one, all the way down that line, my Marines raised their hands. I didn't have to pick one person to stay. That simple act of courage that those young men had, that simple act of courage and loyalty that they had, is very emotional for me. Because it was a day when boys became men and men became warriors. Knowing that you're looking death in the face and still volunteer to stay. As evening continued, there was a Jolly Green rescue chopper going to try to come in, and he made the prophetic comment that he knew he was the last train out of Dodge, and what that meant, if we didn't get on that helicopter, we weren't getting on it. There would be no more tries for rescue. We'd have to circle the northern tip, and had we circled the northern tip, we would have stepped on another part of the hornet's nest, because they were at our north and they were at our south as well. When the pilot made that statement about the last train being out of Dodge, it was decided that John Lucas would throw an orange smoke that would mark our position, and we would try to get in there. They were going to try to get in there to get us out. Now, folks, this is the one time that all the branches of the service, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, came together and worked as one unit. There were a million things that had to go right. Fortunately for us, a million things did go right. As the chopper was coming in, they placed us in, me and Lieutenant Cicero and Staff Sergeant Wyatt were placed in a position where we were going to lay down ground suppression fire for those trying to get on to the helicopter. I seen a set of pajamas, black pajamas, coming from the tree line, and I opened fire, and I don't know if I hit him, don't know if I didn't hit him, don't know. I emptied that weapon, then I beat to that helicopter like everybody else did. You couldn't land where we were at. There were rocks on one side and then the surf on the other side, and he basically just had to hold that helicopter at a hover while we were getting on. It seemed like an eternity. I was told later it was a matter of seconds, but he held that helicopter right there till the very last person was on. And that very last person was Bob Doshniak, and he was wrapped around the rear gun on the minigun. And the Stu Stanley telling him to hang on. So we got him on, and I got all my Marines on. I got all my wounded on. And I come unglued. I just screamed at the top of my lungs. You know, I was so proud of those guys. And how we got out of there alive today, I can't tell you. You're looking at somebody should have been a dead man a long time ago. I guess God's got something else for me to do, whatever it is. I hope it shows me, but that's the way I feel about it. The effects of that day are still with me today. Part of my problem is that inadvertently, accidentally, a machine gun team on the West Beach was left behind. There's a lot of stories about how this could have happened, just one thing after another. But the bottom line is 3 Marines were left behind on that island, and that's where they died. Why? Because no rescue was put together to go get them. Davis and Gunny had volunteered to go back, and any one of us would have volunteered, because that could have easily been us. Now, the machine gun team is a story in itself, and I'll leave that to the Echo Company Marines to talk about, but it still haunts us every day, because you're told you leave no man behind. And when the big shots refused to mount a rescue operations, they were captured and they were executed. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want me to talk about that. They don't want anybody else to talk about it, but it's a fact. What happened, happened. Can't hide from it forever. Well, I spouted for about 45 minutes. Maybe I'll just stop it there. I hope you enjoy watching it. I'm still learning, and I'll continue to learn and get better. But I wanted to share with you why May 15th changed our culture. At least today, we didn't get a welcome home, folks. I'm not crying or whining. I'm thankful to be alive, but there was no parade. There was no music. There was no pomp or circumstance when we came home, because we were looked at as the enemy at that time. As time has gone along, the American people have changed their attitude towards military and giving them the recognition that they deserve, recognition that they need. Any soldier wants to know what I did for my country. 41 people died protecting your right of speech. And believe me, if there's been any right that's been abused anymore, I don't know of it. Tongue is sharper than a two-edged sword. So for all the bloviating that you guys did in the 70s, there was a Marine or a soldier, airman, sailor, somebody there that was protecting you, protecting your right to be stupid. I've always said that everybody has a right, at least within my opinion, to speak their mind as long as it don't go to a personal attack. I can name names, but I'm not going to do that. It solves nothing. All I basically want to do is just simply introduce a video that tells a little bit about myself, and hopefully I can increase my following. But I want to thank you for coming in. I got one person. That's better than zero. Thank you for watching and for staying with me, and I hope that someday that I can be worthy. I'll say that. Be worthy. I deal with survivor's guilt and some other things, but I appreciate if you'd say a prayer for me and my family. I'm getting better. This podcast has helped me to where that I can communicate some. I still have or okay problems because my mind doesn't quite click as fast as it should. But thank you for coming in. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. I appreciate you looking at it and listening to it. And I'm going to close it out one more time. This is called Danielle's Song. Alright, this was, there's a new album that's out that talks about the Battle of Kotang and the Mayaguez incident. I'm going to play one of their songs. If you search Alpha India on YouTube, you'll find the entire album. It's free for download, doesn't cost you a thing, and maybe you'll enjoy it. Danielle's Song, Danielle is one of our Gold Star family. Her uncle was one of the Marines that were left behind on the island, executed days later. But she wanted a song written that would tell about how she felt about our Marines. She's my goddaughter. I'm very protective of her, always will be. But this is a song she wanted to give to all the Marines, the Air Force, and the Navy that she's been around. Danielle was raised with us, so she's one of our own, but I hope you enjoy the song that she wrote for us.
As I stand and look around, all I see is a peaceful paradise. But there's something hidden underneath the sand. Voices in the tree line whisper stories without end. 'Cause this island's full of ghosts. It's where you left your youth. Now you're here again, but so am I. And we're still searching for the truth. There's an island far from home. That's where I found you. After all the tears we've cried, listen to me as I tell you now. You're my family and you mean the world to me. None of you will walk alone, 'cause we're together now. On this life's dark and twisted rocky roads, and we're finally going home. Once you left this place so badly scarred, no one would understand, no one would try. All you had was an invisible burden that was never yours to carry in the first place. Now those lonely days are gone. You've got me, I've got you, we are one. There's an island far from home. That's where I found you. After all the tears we've cried, listen to me as I tell you now. You're my family and you mean the world to me. None of you will walk alone, 'cause we're together now. On this life's dark and twisted rocky roads, and we're finally going home. No more nightmares, no more tears. The battle's over, we can all find peace. Though we've lost so many brothers, husbands, sons, beloved fathers, Gary, Joseph, Uncle Danny, they're an island far from home. That's where I found you. After all the tears we've cried, listen to me as I tell you now. You're my family and you mean the world to me. None of you will walk alone, 'cause we're together now. On this life's dark and twisted rocky road, and we're finally going home. Then one day we'll meet again, and we'll ask them where they've been. One of them will answer with a grin, we've been with you all along. In your hearts we live forever. It's a timeless, endless bond. There's an island far from home. That's where I found you. After all the tears we've cried, listen to me as I tell you now. You're my family and you mean the world to me. None of you will walk alone, 'cause we're together now. On this life's dark and twisted rocky road, and we're finally going home. Lives were lost on that distant island, but it's also where we found each other. We now walk together, day by day, forever. I still hear those voices in the tree line, not of fear and not of anger. They are friends and guardians, yours and mine. No more burdens, no more tears, 'cause as long as we have each other, there is nothing we should fear. As we look into the sky, a new dawn is near.